up.
All right, and you knew it was coming. This week we've been driving the all-new 2022 Ford F-150 Lightning. We did get a chance to drive the Lightning at a first look event a couple of months ago where we drove actually this trim as well as two other trims. But that was a pretty quick video, a pretty rushed experience. In this video, we're diving deeply into this truck, which is the Pro Series of the Lightning. Super excited about it. Let's get into it. So first things first, there are 4 trim levels to the Lightning. You have the Pro, which again is what we're driving here as the base model. Then you have the XLT, then the Lariat, and then the Platinum at the top of the line. All of the Lightning trucks are the SuperCrew configuration. They're all dual motor, 4-wheel drive, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Let's go ahead and take a look at the exterior of this truck. And taking a look at the exterior, that paint color is iconic silver. And while I'm not a huge fan of the silver paint, it is a pretty hot seller. You can see that fully blacked out carbon black grille. Obviously no openings because it is electric. And under that is the frunk, which we'll take a look at in just a second. You got that big Ford badge right there in the front. We have LED projector headlights with the bending daytime running lamps. I think these look pretty good. On most of the trims, most of the models, you have the light bar that goes all the way across the hood. This one does not have that. You do have black tow hooks down there in the front bumper, and overall a nicely sculpted front end. Around the side, we have the standard side mirrors. They do have the turn signal integrated into them. You also have your camera in there. They can fold in, but they do not fold automatically. We have 18-inch match black and high gloss wheels, and those are running 275/65 R18 BSW all-terrain tires. And you can see there are no running boards or anything on this truck, which it is a pretty tall truck, so jumping into it is a bit difficult, especially if you're on the shorter side. So that's definitely something that I would like to see on a truck like this. Also towards the bed, you have the Lightning badging, which is super cool. The cover for the electrical outlet has the F-150 Lightning badging on it. On the back, we have LED taillights, an LED high mounted stoplight, and of course the F-150 stamp, and a nice electric bolt right next to the American flag logo. Let's talk about the full size of this truck. It has a wheelbase of 145.5 inches, total length of 232.7 inches, a cab height of 78.3 inches, total width is 96 inches with those side mirrors, and the ground clearance is 8.4 inches. And if you're comparing that to a standard F-150 with the Super Cab and 4x4, all of those numbers are super close. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the frunk here, or the power front trunk. You can open it from the key fob, so a double tap here. Takes a second, but it will power open. And of course, this is a unique feature thanks to not having an engine up here. You just have the motors mounted at the axles, which we'll talk about in a second. Size-wise, you're looking at 400 liters or 14.1 cubic feet of total cargo area, which is comparable to some crossover SUVs or really large trunks. You can hold up to 400 pounds in there with no issue. You also have 2.4 kilowatts of power with 420 volt outlets and 2 USB outlets. And of course, as easy as it opens, it will close. There is a button up here to close it, or again, with the key, just a double tap and it will close itself. Looking at the bed isn't quite as fancy of a story as the frunk. It is a standard 5-foot 5-inch box. You don't have any fancy steps. You don't have any fancy motions in the tailgate. It doesn't even soft drop. It's a hard drop. You do have the spray-in bed liner. It does have little areas for cups and stuff. You do have the little mounting points here for a clamp. You do have mounting points for 4 tie-down hooks, and you do have a 9.6 kilowatts of power distribution back here. And this one's pretty stacked with 4 120 volt power outlets and 1 240 volt. And as Ford likes to advertise, you can actually charge electric vehicles with this electric truck. We also have the Class 4 trailer hitch installed, and in this exact setup, you're looking at about 7,700 pounds of towing. But obviously, that's going to depend on the exact setup that you get on exactly how much towing you can do. All right, guys, inside the truck, it's much like you would get almost any F-150. Obviously, some very specialized things for being an electric truck. We have the gray vinyl interior, which obviously isn't my favorite. Pretty cheap looking and pretty cheap feeling. This is the base model, obviously, but it's still expensive, which we'll talk about the price here coming up. But other than that, it's a pretty decent interior. Let me give you guys a look around. And of course, we'll start off with the touchscreen display running Sync 4. This is the full 12-inch display, which is a really nice size in this truck. Now you can get a 15.5-inch vertical display. It's the same display that you get in the Mach-E, and that's an optional on the upper trims, obviously. But here on the Pro, this is your base screen, which is an incredible screen for a base screen. You've got a lot of great features, a lot of menus to dive into, a lot of settings that you can do, but it's all very responsive. And again, running Sync 4, you do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integrations and Amazon Alexa. Up above the screen are a few physical buttons. You have your cameras, so you can automatically turn on your cameras, your parking sensors on and off, your hazard lights, and your traction control button. Here you have your Pro trailer control. Obviously something that I didn't get to mess with in this video because we didn't tow, but I have messed with before, and very nice. And then below that, some more trailering controls. Down here, more physical buttons for the audio and physical buttons for your AC and heat controls. Then you have some of your power outlets, 12 volts accessory port here, 120 volt house type plug. We have the dual glove box, so glove box on the top and your standard glove box down there. And then down here we have a little cubby with lots of room actually, and you've got USB type A and USB type C charging ports. No wireless phone charger in this model. You do have your cup holders, a slot right here, which is great to just rest the phone in. And then your gear shifter here. So reverse obviously pulls up the reverse camera. We have neutral and drive. You can also hit the button here to fold in the gear shifter there, which is cool, I guess. It's really cool when you can put the whole console over and have a completely flat surface. This truck does not have that equipped, at least as far as I could tell. You do have a nice big console here. So this button here is for a 30-minute neutral mode. So it's like a timer to keep it into neutral. Not 100% why that's useful, but you do have it here. This truck is push button start. Next, we have our steering wheel here with controls on it. Controls for obviously cruise and interfacing with the audio system. No other real controls on the sides. You got the stock for your windshield wipers and turn signals, obviously. We have the full digital gauge cluster that can be modified to suit what you're doing. Gives just enough info for what you need. On the other side of the steering wheel, you have your side mirror lamps that you can turn on. You have your front open button, your headlight controls there, and your parking brake, and just pretty standard controls all around. Rear seats are a really good size, just like any F-150. And of course you have some connectivity back there. I did have the family loaded up in this thing and they were just fine, 3 wide in the back. But with all of that said, I think it's time to get this thing out on the road, talk about how it drives, talk about those electric motors, and maybe push this and see what a 0 to 60 feels like. Let's go. So one thing that I talked about in my first look review was the smoothness of the ride in this thing. This is one of the smoothest riding trucks that I've ever driven. I'm sure some of that comes down to the weight of the batteries being super low. We also have coil springs front and rear, but all around super smooth and super quiet truck, which is a little bit jarring at first, but not as jarring as the speed in this thing. Those dual motors with the 775 foot-pounds of instant torque is quite impressive. And we do have different drive modes, obviously, for towing, for sports, or for just regular comfort. But even having it in comfort mode like we have, it gets up and goes and makes you, really pushes that face back, pushes you back in the seat. It's pretty responsive for a truck. You can go around corners with ease. Obviously, you still do have body roll, but all of your weight is super low, which obviously helps. But just having that torque instantly on tap in a truck this size, it's pretty insane. Now, we already talked about the interior quality. These seats aren't my favorite. We don't have heated or cold seats. The steering wheel feels cheaper than a lot of other steering wheels, especially for the money you'd spend on this. And just overall, the materials in general aren't great, but everything is laid out really well. Everything's easy to touch, easy to configure, easy to change, easy to see, especially from the driver's point of view. And in most cases, that's the important part. Now, that dual motor setup with the extended range battery allots us a 0 to 60 time of 4 seconds, or they say, I think, mid 4 seconds. We can test that out a bit. So let's go ahead and put this thing into sport mode. Sport mode engaged. Find a straight road here. Make sure we're away from everybody. No cars coming. Hopefully everything's strapped down well. And ready, set, go. Golly, that's 60. It's a quick truck. Again, especially in the sport mode, you've got all that power on tap. It's and it's still quiet, but it easily pushes you back in your seat, easily just rockets this big old truck. And again, that's one of the first things that we played around with and noticed in our quick drive test. This thing is just a monster when it comes to pushing it. So again, we have off-road mode, tow haul mode, a normal mode. You also have a one pedal drive mode that we can engage, and this just enables that regenerative braking. It's a lot more direct to get the maximum amount of regeneration into the batteries as you slow down. You can do the one pedal drive to come to a complete stop. If you've seen some of my other EV reviews, I'm not a huge fan of the one pedal drive. I kind of like the Chevy Bolts that give you the paddle that you can pull to engage the regenerative braking. And I'd rather have that over the one pedal drive that just always enables it. But again, that's just kind of a personal preference of mine. But again, anything else that I've might have complained about this truck in this review, it's almost all negated by the just incredible driving of this truck. Super quiet, super responsive, comfortable to be in. Again, these seats being manually adjustable instead of the power makes it a little bit more difficult to get a comfortable seating position, but once you do, it is comfortable for driving even longer distances. And of course, speaking of longer distances, this thing has the extended range battery, which will give you 320 miles of range. And right now we're at 143 miles left on the batteries, which is a good amount of mileage for day-to-day driving. But we need to get this thing charged. In the town that I live in, the best charger that we have is less than like 10 kilowatts. So we need to find a charger, which is about 15 to 18 miles away. Not a huge deal, but I'll probably pick up the family and we'll drive out and go charge the truck. The standard range battery pack gets 230 miles, while the extended range, which we have here, has 320 miles of range. The standard battery capacity is 98 kilowatt hours, while the extended is 131 kilowatt hours. You can obviously charge this at home. Ford sells the Ford Charge Station Pro, which will get you to 100% in about 10 hours. All right guys, so we're here at a level 3 Electrify America charging station. We're at 113 miles of range right now. It is 11:35. So we're gonna plug it in and let it charge, go grab something to eat, walk around a little bit, and come back and see how well it did. Hear it running still, that's a good sign. I can hear it running still, that's a good sign.
85?
They got to 85%?
Yeah.
All right, looks like we had 34 minutes of charge. We're up to 86% battery now, which is really great. All right, with all of that, let's talk about the price really quickly. The starting price for a Pro is $39,974. The XLT starts at $52,974. The Lariat starts at $67,474. And the Platinum at $90,874. Now this one didn't actually come spec'd with a price because it's still early, and quite frankly some of the prices are changing day to day, but I can tell you that that base price is super hard to actually get this thing at. This has the extended range battery, which adds more onto it, plus every little feature and tech that you get extra is more money. The ones that we drove at the last event did have some prices attached to them, and for the Lariat that has a base price of $67,000 was almost a $90,000 truck, while the Platinum that is a $90,000 truck was close to $100,000. So this is not a cheap option, even the base. Let's jump out and talk a little bit more about that. I'll give you some of my final thoughts and we'll wrap this video. All right, so at the end of the week, what do I really think about the truck? First off, yes, it's expensive. It's kind of the first of its kind. It's gonna be expensive. You got to put a lot of battery tech into this thing to really make it worth even being a consumable truck. You've got to get that mileage, especially in a truck. And the batteries are usually some of the most expensive parts of any electric vehicle. Obviously, it still needs to do truck things like being able to do at least light off-roading. It needs to be able to tow. You need to be able to throw stuff in the bed. And of course, we have the added bonus of the frunk. The biggest part that this suffers in price-wise is the interior quality. The tech is nice in there, but the quality of the materials obviously lacks for the amount that you're spending on a truck like this. But again, a lot of that is just the name of the game with jumping into a first of its kind vehicle. If I was looking for a truck today, would I jump into a Lightning over a gas-powered truck? Probably not, but I really don't have the budget for it. But if I was looking for an electric vehicle, I needed a truck, and I had the money to spend on basically whatever I wanted, I would definitely choose a Lightning. And case in point, for the 2022 year model, you cannot even order one of these anymore because they are all sold out for 2022. With that, it's definitely a super cool truck. Looking forward to the future of trucks and trucking. Looking forward to the Ranger getting an electric model, the Maverick getting an all-electric model. Maybe we'll even see the Expedition getting an all-electric model, which would be cool. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please hit the thumbs up button. If you did, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the F-150 Lightning. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We do a different review every week. Also, go check out TXGARAGE TXGARAGE.com, where we've got a lot of written reviews as well as event and news coverage from a bunch of great authors over there. And with that, guys, thanks for watching.